So welcome to Unpacking Emotions. I'm your host, Ellie, at Ellie is Poppin' on Instagram. I have the beautiful, the talented, the amazing Brooke here with me today as we talk about rejection. Thank you for being here, Brooke.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be your inaugural guest.
Yes! It's our first one, and we are talking rejection. The point of the show is really for us to really just depack a lot of the stigma around the emotions that we feel, knowing that we feel a plethora of emotions as a human experience. And sometimes we shame the ones that aren't the best. So we get to learn from each other, we get to share candidly, we get to learn the tools and resources to process healthy, and even just really understand how sometimes we're not able to navigate some of these, and we're still in the learning process with it. But really allow ourselves to just be human, because that is what we're here for. So thank you for joining. If you haven't liked or subscribed, go ahead and do that now. And let's kick it off, Brooke. So rejection.
Rejection.
When was the first time that you remember feeling rejection in your life? Like your earliest memory of rejection?
You know, the earliest situation as an adult that when I look back, I'm like, that's where I felt rejected. It's interesting because I feel that in my adult brain, but I don't know if as a child I felt it at that moment. But I even run that back because I definitely felt it and I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that rejection was a thing. And so I just want to preface, everything that I share with, feelings are not facts. And so I feel that it is important to share, because when we get in these situations, we're like, we don't want to offend nobody. We don't want nobody to be mad at us. But there's also the safety of like, this is what I feel, but it doesn't mean that it was your intention, that this is a fact. So I just want to put that out there on the topic of just sharing feelings at all, because I plan to tell everybody business. My mama business, my daddy business. I'm going to answer the question for you. But I still, even at this big old age, I'm like, I don't want my parents to feel. But it is important to share. And so for people who may be on the receiving end of some of these feelings, because we hear the dish on other folks, but I may have made some other people feel a certain way too in my lifetime. So it's important to know that feelings are valid, but they're not facts, and we can process that, and hopefully it opens the pathway to healing and healing yourself and others.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And as you said, Brooke, really just taking the time to understand that the way that we feel is valid. It doesn't mean that the person intended to do that or that was their objective, but because we felt that way, it's real, right? So we can hold that space and be real and know that we don't have to villainize a person for their actions, because a person is not their actions. We fall short too, right? We don't always get it right. We may have made someone feel that way, but right here, right now, this is our feeling. This is how we feel. So this is what we're going to let loose right now.
So with that said, my earliest feeling of rejection is being raised from, a young age to about 5 or 6 by my father's family. Mm-hmm. And I know this is a common occurrence in the Black community, in brown skin communities where, in order to chase a better life, we may leave our children with family members to raise. And so my earliest memories, and again, in Black and brown communities, we keep these secrets. So we don't, we go back and we find we don't even have all the information. But my version is that, my mother got pregnant with me at a very young age, at 18.
Okay.
And at that point in her life, she had received a full basketball scholarship to Syracuse University, which is a big move. Period. Go Orange. So, she met my dad in the summer before college, and by Thanksgiving break, she was pregnant. And so while I understand, you had a big opportunity, you go into this big school, you have this scholarship, I was left in my hometown with relatives to raise. Yes. And while at the time, I honor the fact that it positioned my parents to, be the parents who they are now, two people who were the only people in their families to kind of elevate to the level that they are now. But I think there is something to not having that day-to-day with your parents, that one-to-one, that coming home to your mom. And, I later did some research, and I've learned that from 0 to 5, you are 80% of who you're ever going to be as a person. The other 20% is nature and your experience. Yes. And so I feel that a lot of that bonding opportunity with my mother was lost in that time frame, because I didn't have that experience. And so, you know, in therapy, or, you know, when we talk about childhood traumas, I think that's my first feeling of like, why didn't you just take me with you?
Yes.
You know, no matter how hard it was going to be, or no matter what challenges, maybe there was a friend who could have babysat, maybe there was a campus babysitter, like, what reason can you give me to justify leaving your baby with not even your family, but like your partner's family?
Okay.
You know, and so again, the details are murky, and there's no shade to nobody.
Right.
I'm appreciative of what it is, but again, that's my adult brain.
Right.
My child brain probably could have benefited from just kind of understanding the situation, because we make decisions for kids without explaining to them what the logic is behind it, you know? So I think
feel
that's
that.
it.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. And did it ever occur to you when you were a child, these feelings that you're saying now, you're saying in your adult brain, but as a child navigating that, my parents are not here and I'm living with my dad's family, did you feel the rejection then?
No, I actually felt quite loved.
Okay.
I felt quite loved by my aunts and, you know, my great-grandmother, all the hands that were on deck in raising me. But I do think, you know, I felt a void.
Yes.
Because I was with cousins who had their mom. Right. I was with every person who took care of me had children that I was amongst, you know? And so I felt it as a void. I don't think I knew the word rejection back then, but I definitely felt the absence of something about this is different for me than it is for my cousins.
Got it. All right. So fast forward and not to now being a little bit older and being able to identify the emotion of rejection, whether high school or college or in your adult life. When could you remember feeling that sense of rejection from someone?
From like middle school or high school, or like adult, like
just when you're able to name that emotion of this, I'm being rejected. Like, this is what rejection feels like.
I would say probably in relationships, my first like serious relationship, because for like in my younger kid days, like grade school, the only real competition, because I equate rejection with competing for something. You're being judged for something. Nobody's really judging you that harsh, like unless you're playing sports, and I really didn't care about sports like that deeply where it mattered. And I was definitely getting like any little boys that I wanted to like be friends with. But the first time it really was like even running it back to college, I applied to one school. I applied to Syracuse University, early decision.
Whoa.
So even as of 18, like I didn't even get rejected from colleges because I did early decision. By January, I was accepted, and while everybody else was getting their rejection letters in the mail, I was good. I was enjoying my senior in high school. But I think it had to have come from a man.
Okay.
You know, with 21, I moved to New York City, and that's where people can say no without a reason.
Right.
Like at least in college, maybe you didn't get your SAT score. College applications, maybe it was an SAT score. In sports, maybe you didn't hit a time. I ran track. I played basketball. I wasn't that great at basketball, so I was just tall, so they put me in the center, but I was just like, but track is like, you know, you didn't hit the time, you didn't you're not getting a scholarship. You have reasons why you didn't get it.
Right.
But when somebody's like, yeah, I just don't, and I'm like, wait, I'm popping though, like I'm cute, I got a great job, I have a great apartment, I'm doing my thing. And so I think the first time anybody gives you a no, and it's just like, because that's just how I feel, you turn that in on yourself, and you're like, well, what? Wait, like, but why? Like, but why? Why?
Yes.
You know?
So we can feel rejections in a different type of ways, whether it's romantically from a partner, whether it's at school, whether it's at a career trying to advance, or whether it's a self-rejection. So we're talking right now about having that kind of romantic rejection of someone, or wanting to be in love with someone and feeling that rejection. What about other areas in your life?
I was just about to say, like, as you were like saying that, I'm just like, the funny thing is we probably get rejected like so many other times, but we only can feel it, we only care when it's like romantic.
Okay.
You know, like how many times a day do we get rejected? How many no's do we encounter in a day?
Yes.
And you only realize it when it's like, you know, a romantic partner. And so I think I think it hits harder when it's romantic. That was kind of the question, right?
Yeah.
I think it hits harder when it's romantic because the stakes are higher.
Okay.
You know, it's like someone can say no for a lot of different reasons, but you don't take those no's and turn them in on yourself.
Right.
I wonder, I mean, maybe in a job capacity, I wonder why I didn't get that job. But usually when you don't get it, they tell you, oh, you were great, but you're overqualified. Oh, you were great, but you don't have X, Y, and Z that we're looking for. But I think interpersonal relationships, like, you care because, you know, and this is coming from two mindful mamas. So the way we raise our kids now ain't the way we were particularly brought up. But I think what's consistent is we always tell our kids, like, you're the best, you did a good job, you're this and you're that. And so we get to know our internal landscape so well. But when we present that to someone for judgment and they're telling you, I don't want to rock with you, it's like they don't know all of that. They don't know you the way you know you.
Right.
So you question all of that because we experience ourselves from the inside out. Right now, sitting here, you can't experience you the way I'm looking at you, how beautiful you are. I'm looking at your hair, your makeup, your outfit. Like, you're experiencing your genuine self.
Right.
And I think the place where we really put our genuine internal landscape on display for another person is only in interpersonal relationships.
That's a fact.
I don't care if the bodega guy don't rock. You know, I care. When I care, I want that person to match my level of care. And when it doesn't, it does something to you internally where you can't just shake that off.
Right. So let's build more on that because you talked about internalizing it. What does that sound like? What are those thoughts? What are those stories? What's coming up for you when you're facing this rejection from someone?
What comes up for me is I immediately want to know, like, what you chose in place of.
Okay.
So if it's not me, let's just say on the topic of, like, romantic relationships, if it's not me, I want to know who was the last chick you dated then. Okay. I'm straight going to, like, okay, well, what's your type? And who did you choose in place of? Okay. And now I'm fast forwarding to, like, social media age where you can get that information abundantly. Right. You can find out what somebody's on real quick. And then again, like, because you know yourself from the inside out, you're comparing. You know, they say comparison is the thief of joy. You're looking at this person and they may be very regular, but maybe there's something about that person that really connects with another aspect of it. We get into all the higher talk, but that first, you compare. I think it looks like comparison. I think it looks like if I had just, like, maybe it's a day, you know, we moms, maybe it's a day you just threw something on to go to the bus stop to pick up your kid. And then you see, like, damn, if I had just threw on my face today. And we always go to, like, it's the one time that I didn't. It's the one time I threw the stupid hat on. It's the one time I wore these Crocs and these socks. So you start to think that it could have been a different way, if only. Okay. Whether it's something you could have done, or if we had just met 3 months ago, or it looks like comparison. It looks like blame, like self-blame, or thinking it could have been any other way, or thinking that, you know, maybe there's something you need to change, because then you're attuned to what, it's almost like you prioritize what they're looking for over what you are. So it's like, damn, I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was. You start wishing that you were different.
Okay, which goes into the comparison, right?
Yeah. And I don't know why. I don't know why it goes there, why internalizing is like the default function in that situation. Right. But I know that's what it sounds like for me. It looks like comparison, it looks like wishing things were different, timing, looking at who you into, all of that.
Okay. So how has rejection helped shape the way in which that you grow, right? So you have that one experience at 21 where you're rejected by that partner. But that doesn't mean you're not open to love or you're not going to continue with love. So how does that help with how does that shape that next encounter, that next relationship?
I would say, you know, coming up to present, I think you stay in that hamster wheel of, you know, processing rejection the same way until you start some real level of self-worth. Right. And, you know, when I line up the big shift in my life, you know, I've been on my, like, self-work journey for about 7 years now.
Shout out to all the girlies doing that inner work.
Yes. When my son turned 2, his father and I separated. And I just knew that if this little being is going to be in my energy 90% of the time, I have to get this right.
Yes.
And I became invested in little things that build those atomic habits. Shout out to James Clear. Hope I didn't mess up the name. It might be John, but I think it's James.
I know the book.
Hopefully it's James, right? We know the book. Shout out to Atomic Habits. But it's those little things, you know? So I'm not like, I'm going to be this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to get up early and I'm going to drink water and I'm going to think. It's like, I'm going to work on patience.
Yes.
Because don't nobody irk your nerves more than a 2-year-old.
Woo!
And I was like, I'm going to work on patience. Then I'm going to work on delivery because I can't be up in here yelling and screaming. So I really started the journey small, and then I started getting tarot readings. Then I was spending a lot of money on tarot readings, so I had to learn how to read the cards for myself because the cards is cheaper than all the session. But then I tapped in with a reader who started talking about energy and crystals and healing. Then I added those elements, and so even though the goal of that was to serve this purpose, it expanded my view on everything. So bringing it back to rejection, that's when I could say, like, you like that, I'm not that, but I don't value what you like more than what I am. So it turned my focus more onto amplifying what I am. It's like, you know, to quote Kanye West, everything I'm not makes me everything I am. I may not be picture perfect Beyonce, but that's okay, because what I'm not is who I am. Yes. And I really had to start thinking, like, this is my mantra, and I've been saying this for 7 years. Everything I don't have also doesn't have me. So what's the bigger L? Me not having that, or you not having me? Because I know I'm a vibe.
Yes.
I know I'm a vibe. I know what you're missing by not having me. If it's a job, you don't want to. Okay.
Yes.
The person you hired, that's okay. But then I had the patience to watch it play out, because I had worked on that from 2 years old with my son. So I had the patience. I had the anger management started to go down. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to show out. I'm going to just let it play out.
Look how it's all interconnected. Look how it all plays a role into that growth. Come on.
So you start to see rejection as alignment.
Yes.
And, you know, it's like, if I was allowed to make all the decisions that I wanted to make, we might be having a whole different conversation right now. We certainly wouldn't be sitting amidst all this abundance and smiles and we'd be sitting, you know, you'd be across the glass and we'd go on a little phone having this talk. But, you know, I think, to long story short, I think when I started the self-work, I was able to see rejection as redirection and sort of forcing me to focus on what I am and amplify that and to be confident in that, because your people are out there. Because what am I missing by trying to be that? And your people can't find you when you're pretending.
That's a fact.
Your people can't find you. Your things cannot find you when you're pretending. And once I relaxed into who I am, I don't even have no shoes on right now.
Right.
But I started to realize, like, wow, people like that. I like that.
Yes.
There's value here.
Come on.
So you can't really reject me. You can only redirect me.
Woo.
Even back to my childhood experience.
That's another bar. You can't reject me. You can only redirect me.
Yes. I'm gonna need these quotes for my quotes.
It feels like what we're saying right now is rejection sometimes is protection, right? It's like, I wasn't meant for that. And it wasn't meant for me. So being able to understand that and fall into that space of awareness, of knowing that it's way bigger than us. And when you know yourself and you know that your higher power, whatever you align with, whatever feels good for you, got you, then you're good, right? This ain't really rejection. This is just a redirection.
And when you also tap into, like, the divine timeline.
Yes.
Because hindsight is 20/20. So even going back to my childhood, it's like, if my parents had said, you know what, we're going to hunker down and we're going to raise this baby no matter what it takes. My mother had a full basketball scholarship to a private university. Like, I ended up going to Syracuse University. Yes. I am a Delta because I went to Syracuse University and pledged my mom's chapter. But, you know, my dad was able to go and, like, make his career in the military. Yes. My parents, no shade to the rest of my family, but my mom was the only one in her family to attend college, to graduate, to have an advanced degree, to become a lawyer, to move out of Rochester, New York, and to move us to DC and Baltimore and Maryland. You know, so on the back end, God knew, you built for this. You got this.
Yes.
I'm positioning you because one, I know you can handle this mission.
Yes.
But in 40 years, you're going to understand why. Because if my parents had not been able to elevate, I would be in the town I was born in doing who knows what. And like I said, that's okay. For whoever's enjoying that, great. But for me, that was not for me.
That part.
So even that wasn't rejection. But in order to take that stance, you have to understand that this time shit was created by people. It's somebody told us today is a Tuesday.
Right.
It's like, did y'all keep an accurate record? Like, did you know? Like, how are we, you know? So the timeline is infinite. Yes. It's not finite. It's infinite. And seeds planted 40 years ago may not sprout till now. Yes. So even that, but you have to start the journey to get to that level of understanding. Because if you're just looking at things for what they are, then you're going to be mad at a lot of things if you don't see how those rejections were redirections. Or sometimes you go through things so that I can be a mindful mom.
Yes.
Like my son is benefiting from me wanting to change some things. Ooh. Me wanting to create stability. We gonna live in the same house for 10 years at a time. Yes. Because I value stability in a way that I may not have had my experience been different.
Yes.
So
come on. We're going to need to unpack that. That has a lot of clips and gems in there. Thank you for sharing that. And I really felt that from your heart right now. Was there ever a time where you weren't able to process rejection the way you are right now in this understanding? And what did you do to get to this? Like, how did you build this resilience of, we talked about doing this self-work, being on this journey. But when you're in there, when you're 21-year-old Brooke, when you're 18-year-old Brooke, and it's like, rejected me? How do you find the strength to really push forward? And this is for somebody who's really struggling with that right now, right? Like, whatever age you're at, understanding that this moment is just a moment. It's not forever, right? It's temporary.
So I have a twofold answer to that, because the irony is I feel it more difficult to process rejection now with the enlightenment because there's this concept of fairness. So it's like, I'm doing all of the things. Okay. So I already knew from my earlier, let's say 21 mind, like, yo, I'm me, I'm popping. Why? Now I'm doing the work. Yes. And I'm still getting down. Like, the beef becomes with the universe. It's like, girl, because self-work is optional. Yes. It's not mandatory. This is extracurricular. Right. So you have to say, I want to go on this journey. Right. Then you suit up, you on the journey, you're like, boom, I know people are not going home and doing all of this. Right. And I'm still getting out from now, a lesser being is telling me no. So the irony is that the rejection, I feel it more on the other side of enlightenment, but I have the tools to work through even that, you know. But back then, to keep it a beam with you, it manifested as anger, and it manifested as rage. Okay, it manifested as, you know, 2 points I'll make about that. Anger, and I think I've said this to you before, anger is the part of you that knows you deserve better.
I love when you share that
with me. It's your big sister showing up to the playground, like, who we need to be up today, because I know you are not. But I introduced the concept of rage because that anger was not gradual. Okay. It wasn't like, I'm angry. It's like, if I'm angry, it's always at a 10. Okay. I'm either, haha, we cool, or when I'm mad, it's a 10. It's not like a little bit mad, or like, hey,
I'm sure many people can resonate with that right there. Right?
Yeah, and then I'm talking to everybody who was told, oh, you need anger management. Right. All of those anger management graduates, because even you telling me that is pissing me off. Because there's no accountability. Like, nobody... We say things like, oh, you think I just woke up mad, or you think I just chose to be mad? Because it takes away the accountability. Ooh. Like, why am I in a rage? But being accountable, the way my rejection manifested in my, you know, pre-enlightenment, my PE, we got PE and AE, right? So my pre-enlightenment days, it was rage. I was mad. I was angry. Okay. And I didn't have the tools to, one, understand the source of my anger, that it's rejection, it's lack of accountability, And it's also deeply rooted in love and wanting a different outcome.
Yes.
And being able to see, like, I just know.
Deeply rooted in love, right? Like a lot of our emotions too are deeply rooted. And I love that you said that.
They're deeply rooted. Well, that movie with A Thin Line Between Love and Hate was like funny, but it's really true.
Yeah.
That song, it is really true because you can only, I'm not gonna go too deep into but you can only experience to the extent that you have, that you've done. Like the consequence can only happen to the degree that the thing happened. So you can't hate something that you never loved.
Right.
You can't love something that you don't have the potential to hate because
right.
again, that big sister comes out.
Part of the same coin,
why
right?
Are you doing
the
this?
Duality.
Yeah. So it was anger and it was rage, and then I was mad that people kept throwing anger management. Oh, you just need anger. You need anger management. But after years and years of hearing that from, if things went left with my mom, you need to see somebody. A relationship. Oh, you need anger management. I was like, everybody can't be wrong.
Oh.
Because nobody knows that the other person has said this to me.
Yes.
So I admit it, I was angry.
Yes.
My son walked into the bus this morning, the light was crossing the street, the light was changing, and I reached for his hand and he wasn't trying to grab my hand back. And I was like, bro, I'm trying to hold your hand so that we could cross the street, But I was like, why are you?
Yes.
And it's tied to rejection. Because I'm like, you don't want to hold my hand? Like, why? I'm like, he is 9. He's got gloves on, boxing gloves. It's 27 degrees. Shout out to the mamas doing these early bus stop drops in these 25 degrees. He was not trying to give me that little hand. And I was like, but I have the tools. I was like, why are you experiencing this?
That pause that you took.
Pause is loaded, but it's still there.
Yes.
And it's the rejection, which is why I chose that as the core emotion. The rage is a byproduct because there are parts of yourself that have your back too.
Right.
You are allowed to defend yourself.
You're the big sister.
You're the big sister.
Yep.
You're the observer and the observed.
Yes.
And so, that's the anger and the rage. And once I started to take accountability for that, then I was able to actually do the work, because the rage and the anger was just a leaf on the tree.
Yes.
The branch. And I'm like, what is the trunk? The trunk is the rejection. The anger is the branches, and the rage is just the leaves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we don't want to get to cutting down branches because trees regenerate.
Right.
You can grow another, trees and the plants in the concrete. The root's gonna fix themselves. But what is the trunk of this issue? And it's rejection.
Come on. So following up with that, I'd love to know, Brooke, has there ever been a time where you experienced rejection in any capacity, and you're like, I'm going to prove this person wrong? Absolutely. And did it work in your favor, or was it a realization for you that this wasn't meant to be?
Absolutely. My disillusion of my relationship with my son's father was not my choice. He made that call, and I'm talking to people who, again, there's no shame, there's no embarrassment. We always want to be the ones to claim, I ended it. It wasn't. No, I got broken up with, and it sucked, and it hurt. And at the time, even though there's no shame in my position, I was not my best self.
Yes.
I'm someone who leads from the heart. I'm a Leo sun, and I'm a Sag rising, so I'm always coming with what feels good first. The logic is later.
Okay.
But my point is that, I entered this relationship heart first. So I moved to a whole new place. I moved back to New York from LA. I'm not from LA. I don't even want it to seem like that. I am 10 toes down from Harlem for the past 20 years to be up Baltimore, Maryland. But I moved to LA for some time and I moved back. But I did that with no resources. So what I'm trying to say in an elevated way is I didn't have no job. I didn't have no job. I ain't had no plans. I was getting my little unemployment checks out the mailbox real quick. So I had a couple little coins for the summertime. But I was not my best self to show up as a partner.
Okay.
So to mask that, I was like, okay, I got pregnant 6 months after meeting this person, and I didn't have a plan. And so I was like, well, let me hide the fact that I'm a bum by going to grad school. Because when you're in school, when people are like, oh, what do you do? You're like, oh, I'm getting my master's. Right. Okay, great. We're going to go to grad school, right? I did like what I was studying, but if I'm being honest, which is what we're here for, I was getting a master's in fine arts and interior design.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's a whole B-level thing because I feel like I've had a block in decorating this space because if I acknowledge that I can decorate, then I'll feel the pain that I had to drop out of grad school when we broke up.
Okay.
I had to drop out because I didn't have a job, I didn't have anything. But anyway, bring us back to center. When that relationship ended, this is the state that I was in. I had a terrible credit score. I didn't have great spending habits. Just everything. I was like, because nobody ever taught me.
Right.
Nobody ever taught me. I didn't know. So when we broke up, I absolutely felt like, oh, I'm going to glow up and I'm going to show you.
Yes.
I'm going to show you. And what's crazy is, rejection on the flip side does usually put us in a position to like do better.
Yes. Because hopefully,
I saw on IG, it was a post that was like, you break up with a girl and the next weekend she got a master's degree, she done built a house, she done became an astronaut,
she done blow up.
The glow up is very personal.
Yes.
And so, interesting story. I was in my readings that I was getting post that time. I kept getting cups energy. I kept getting heart energy when it came to my business. I started a business after that. And so she was like, I don't understand why all this relationship energy is on your business. And I said, I built the business as a middle finger to the relationship.
Shit.
So that, and that's what I mean, the flip side of rejection. Because I'm like, you rejected me into a 6-figure business that has given me the life that I want to live, which is, flexibility to be there for my kid, to work on my own terms, to da-da-da. So what's good about that and what's bad about that, I started with the good. What's good about it is that I was able to say, because of this situation, I'm going to prove to you and everybody else, I'm going to make you regret that decision. But along the journey, it became less about impressing you, and it just became my default. It became my thing. The thing I want to highlight for people, though, is that even using rejection as a springboard, we can't make the mission about one person.
Right. Woo, talk about
because
it.
That person has already decided that they don't see you.
That part.
So you throw yourself back into a rejection cycle, even though you're popping. Because until this person tells me I am great, I see you, you've done it, you're not going to acknowledge that you've done it. And that doesn't have to be a romantic partner. That could be a parent who you're waiting to say, hey, girl, you popping.
Right.
You're doing it.
A boss that says you do for that promotion, like whatever it is, right?
So we cannot make the mission about impressing or proving one person, because then that person's yes or no becomes too weighty in the process that they ain't got nothing to do with it.
Right. Going back to that, what we were talking about earlier, the external, where it's like you're looking at someone and you're comparing yourself to this person that you got rejected to. It's the same shit right now. It's like, oh, I'm looking for this external, as opposed to just like, I know I'm popping. I know I'm deserving. Right. I did this because I am able to, right? Yes, it may have been fueled by this, but it was only done because of my capability.
And I was meant to, because we're going back to you cannot reject me, you can only redirect me.
Yes.
So you were a player in me actually reaching my potential. So what am I mad at you for? I know you see it. I know, shout out to my 80s babies, because we have a song for everything. But I know you see it.
Right.
You don't have to tell me you see it, because I know. You can't miss it.
Right.
You can't miss it. You can't miss the glow.
Yes. Woo, come on. So we've been doing some really beautiful unrooting emotions of rejection right now. So before we end, I'd love to hear any advice you have for someone who's dealing with rejection, right? For someone who has a door closed on them, for someone who was broken up with and may not believe in love again, for someone who started a business and really doesn't feel the real belief in themselves, right? Or maybe they failed their business and they have something else they want to do, but that rejection, that failure may have stopped them. So what advice would you have for that person?
Whew. That's loaded. So, My advice for that person, well, because there's the person who's doing the work and there's the person who's not. So it's like two levels of advice, right? So I'm just gonna say what's blanket for everybody, and no shade to people who are not doing the work, but I just mean you don't have the tools to even have the awareness to to then know how to course correct. So I'm gonna just speak in my language and hope everybody catches it. Right. But the most relevant thing I will say is accountability. Accountability is not just taking your piece of a conflict, but it's also just being able to acknowledge what is true about you. I am good at this. That person is better than me at this. So that's not a rejection. That's the better person. Yes. And I think Jay-Z made like a poignant point at the Grammys, and I don't know who watched it and who didn't, but he said, some of y'all tonight are gonna be robbed.
That was I love
some of y'all tonight are gonna feel like you were robbed.
That's sad.
And some of y'all should have never even been in the category. And sometimes it's about saying, I didn't belong in this category. Right. So when it comes to pursuing partners, make sure you're fishing in your pool. Right. Because if you want your man to come to you with this, and he got to have this, and he got to have that, and you come in with nothing of that, you're not going to have that. That's not rejection. That man deserves, if you love that man, you love that he deserves an equal. Yes. You're not an equal. Aspire. If you set your set, okay, I want that, you have to aspire to be that. Yes. That takes a big level of accountability and knowing who you are and what you're capable of, you know? Yes. So that's in pursuing partners. In pursuing jobs. Like, maybe you didn't belong at that table, because rejection is not personal. People have the right, as we talk about alignment, not everything is going to be aligned with you, you know? That's right. As an entrepreneur who has started a business, you know, I have friends and family who hit me up about like my talent, and I have to say, like, this part of the conversation is a business. Unless I ask you to come be a model and work for free, I can't do that. Right. This is a business, you know, and you have to patronize my business as a business. That's right. That's not a rejection. That is the facts. Right. Right. That's the facts. That's me. That's the alignment. Right. That's not me thinking I'm too good. That's not me thinking I'm better. That's just the facts. Yes. You know, energy is currency. Time is currency. Yes. And so is the same way money is currency. Right. We're spending time. It's all energy. It's all energy. So I would just, accountability is a huge part of it. Like, know yourself. And that way you might not experience things as rejection. Yes. All the time. If you feel like you're constantly rejected, you in the wrong place. Yes. Because it ain't that nobody's waking up trying to like crush your soul, break your soul for the millennials. Nobody's out here trying to break your soul for fun. Okay. Right. So accountability. I love this. Self-awareness. And I'm talking to my most playful inner child friend. Don't be afraid to create your own thing. Yes. If when you're looking out there, you don't see something that reflects like who you are and what you want to do, create your own. Yes. Be fearless. Like, try to create space that feels good. Yes. You don't have to justify why. There's a certain room in my home that just feels good. I just like being in there. Yes. I don't have to that's not like, if it doesn't work, don't try to force what they say, round pegs and square holes. Right. Go where it feels good. Stay there. Add more of what feels good and let things fall away. And lastly, we look at, elevation and abundance, and all this thing is adding more. And I'm just in a season of stripping away. When I get dressed, I swear to God, when I get dressed in the morning, I spend the day in that clothes. And when I get home, if I can't wait to take something off, I put it in a giveaway pile. I don't care what it is. Luxury, designer, Fashion Nova, it doesn't matter. Yes. I get rid of it because I'm trying to align. Then that creates space for me to get an item that I love. Yes. I love this hoodie. I love this hoodie. It's from Fashion Nova, child. Oh, cute. And I put it on with my Balenciaga boots. And this is my favorite. I love this piece. I don't care. So, alignment, self-awareness, accountability, and you should see a swift decline in your rejections. Yes. Come on. All right. So just a question for fun. Yeah. If rejection was a color, what color would it be and why? I don't want to think too hard about it. If rejection was a color, what color is this? Red.
Red. Okay.
It's red for me because it's going to piss me off, but then it's going to light a fire inside of me, and then it's going to turn into passion.
Come on.
Because I'm going to transmute. I'm going to alchemize the rejection. But it's funny, like that red, it encompasses all of that. First, it's going to piss me off. And it might have a little orange in there because it's going to make me rage. Then it's going to calm out a little bit. And it's going to be like, you know what? Period. I'm going to show you. And then that passion is going to take me across the finish line.
Yes. Come on. Thank you for so many gems. I hope that you've been catching them. Rewind this, rewatch this, share this with a friend. Brooke, thank you so much for your wisdom, your insight, your genuineness. This was literally felt like your heart was speaking right through it. Everything that you said. Anything else you want to share? That business we've been talking about, though, make sure you follow it on Instagram at Wildflower Locks.
Yes.
WILDFLOW. HER Locks, LOCS, right?
Yes, Wildflower Locks. No, I just thank you.
Thank
you for seeing enough wisdom and nuggets in me to even ask me.
Yeah, we are clipping so much of this. Like, it's so much of this that's like we get to share, and that was beautiful. Like, truly beautiful. So, knowing that if any of this resonated with you, allow yourself to really explore the parts of you that are stuck on a storyline that really doesn't belong with you, right? Mm-hmm. Knowing that there's something greater for you out there. We all experience rejection. And knowing that it could be your redirection. There's something greater for you. This ain't for you right now. That doesn't mean that you are not worthy or deserve it, right? But right now, this ain't your path. So follow the one that is. And you'll see all the seeds blossom that are for you. So I thank you for being here. Like and subscribe, share this with someone who needs it, and tune in for the next episode as we continue to unroot emotions. I'm your host, Ellie, the beautiful Brooke. Thank you so much again. Take care, everyone.